Hello, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for coming and joining us for Because We Exist, Food Co-op Initiatives series about the impacts and the importance of startup food co-ops and what we accomplish in our communities, both before we open and after. We are excited to have with us today Market 166 Co-op Grocery and Kitchen Co-op in the co-op we're going there twice. My apologies. That's my fault. East Point, Georgia. And they are going to be joining us today, two members of their board, and I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves and their role in the co-op. And we start with you, Opal. Oh.
Let's on mute. Okay. My name is Opal Baker. I am on the board. I'm an owner, and I'm on the board of Market 166 here in East Point. Been on the board for 2 years or so. I'm entering my third year.
Excellent. And welcome. And Abby, can you introduce yourself?
Sure. Hey everyone, I'm Abby. I also live in East Point. I joined the board in spring of 2021 and actually finished out my term about a year ago. So my 3-year board term ended in fall of 2024. And I am no longer on the board, but I lead one of our committees, which I'm sure we will talk much more about at some point throughout this presentation.
I have a
So
funny feeling
good to
we're
be here
spending a lot of time on that committee. Yep.
with
Excellent. Well, thank you both. And we're going to do a little, we start these sessions with just a little background information about who the co-op is. We're going to spend more time here, though, than we did with the open co-ops because Market 166 is not open yet. And so there's a lot more to discuss about what's going on in their organizing. They are mid-organizing rather than, oh, we organized and this is what happened. And so they incorporated in 2018. They have been organizing for 8 years so far, and they don't yet have a full opening date for a grocery store, for a full-size grocery store. They are currently, everyone else we've talked to is either in development stage 5 for Startup Food Co-op, which is the post doors open phase, where we are working on manifesting and stabilizing the actual business we promised. They're in stage 2, which is a lot about growing the base, growing the community buy-in and growing the vision, as well as putting together a business plan that is viable, that is this feasible, that will allow them to deliver what they've promised to the community in a way that will be around for years to come. And so they are you're this far in, and of course you can see from these dates that COVID hit right as they were gaining momentum, like a lot of startups who have been organizing for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years right now. COVID hit in the midst of gaining momentum. And I wondered if you guys wanted to talk for just a minute, like, how did this get started in 2018? And, you're 8 years in, and just any thoughts you have about that, about how you guys are feeling about your organizing now and how you've gotten here.
Abby, do you want to get started with how it got started? I think you have a better background on that than I do.
Sure. Yeah, so as everyone probably heard in our intros, neither Opal or I were there in the very beginning. But I was aware of Market 166 as it was getting started. At the time, I was not living in East Point. I was living about 20 minutes away in a different part of Atlanta, but working for a nonprofit local food distributor. So all that context is to say, even in the early days and stages of Market 166, before I was directly involved, I was aware of them as a sort of, budding development within the local food space. And we had some conversations in the role that I had then working at a local food distributor. But anyway, yeah, the how Market 166 got started, and perhaps it's similar in story to many of you here, but I'm not sure, but probably. Anyway, is there were a group of neighbors who continually noticed that there were lots of ventings and frustrations in community spaces, but especially like online Facebook community groups about the lack of fresh food options in our community. And that is still largely true. We do have some grocery stores where we live, but they are very just sort of like basic staples, not a lot of variety, and the quality, especially on fresh foods, is very hit or miss. And so there is some food access, but I think a lot of folks know that we deserve more, and we deserve more variety. We deserve higher quality. And so it started in a neighborhood Facebook group. It's like how the specific conversation started. And out of that, a few folks in that group said, why don't we get together and talk about what this could look like? And so they got together at a local restaurant and decided to explore creating a grocery store. They had been told, doing some preliminary research, that chain grocery stores were not going to come here. The median income in our community is not high enough. I'm reserving comments that I have on that. That is just what we were told, and that is the truth. And so they decided, well, if they aren't going to come to us, let's build it ourselves. And the cooperative model just seemed like a really good fit for that. And so that conversation happened again in a local restaurant, coffee shop in 2017. And then we formally incorporated in the state of Georgia in 2018 and began some of our more formal organizing.
And we're going to get into some of the challenges you guys faced in 2020 and that market study bit in a little bit. But what would you guys say about your organizing right now? Do you feel like you guys have really great momentum and or how is it feeling?
So, organizing right now is it's challenging for
Mhm.
sure. You get a group of people who are not necessarily business owners and or come from various backgrounds and level of experience, et cetera, and even vision of what it is to own a business. And so there's what I've learned is that before we even start talking about anything else, the folks who have been um, assigned the pleasure of, leading a co-op need to all be on the same page or find ways to to really understand kind of what the why of what we're doing so that we can move forward. So right now, I mean, we're very actively organizing, and it's I think most co-ops probably experience um, the burnout that happens
Mhm.
in the early stage organizing, and so we we are right now a pretty small group. We go up, we go down, we come back, we go down. But the organizing is happening full steam ahead. I mean, we developed a strategic plan um, back in 2023 or so, and we were working really hard to stay with that, or at least when we veer, that the veering is remains seminal or step or important to the journey.
Absolutely.
So yeah, so
And
we're
it's always so interesting to hear because I mean those struggles are common among startups and from the outside, someone has all the luxury of being out here and watching you guys. The sense of momentum has definitely picked up in the last couple of years. And and maybe it's because of these efforts we're gonna get into just shortly. So we'll lean into that a bit more. I'm actually gonna skip forward. Oh no, we're missing a slide, aren't we? Where are we? I want to go back to the slide actually and say, I said where you guys are located. I want people to understand your community a little better before we even get into your ends, because you were alluding toward those values and reasons you guys are organizing, and I heard you as well, Abby. And can you guys tell us a little more? Because East Point, Georgia, 38,000 population, but you guys are in what is considered Metro Atlanta, yet very different community. Can you tell us about, how where does your community fit? What kind of community is it? What kind of, what anything you want us to know about what the both the struggles and the strengths of your community and who's there?
Opal, why don't you kick
okay.
that one off? Yeah.
Okay, all right. East Point, Georgia. We're part of, yes, of the Atlanta metro area. We're south of Atlanta. Historically disinvested area. We're part of what's called Tri-Cities, which is made up of a couple of other towns, Hapeville and College Park. And we're part of the South Fulton region. South Fulton County is where, well, Fulton County is where Atlanta exists. And we are part of South Fulton, what we call south of the 20 is what we are, of I-20, which really is like a spoke right across that separates uh, Atlanta north from Atlanta south. In not exactly, but it's when you say south of the 20, folks get who are from here get an idea of what that looks like. There's been, I mean, attempts to develop. Um, East Point itself is experiencing um, fast um, and I think on not as well managed gentrification. And I think, the city's struggling with how to do that and how to do that well and how to make sure that folks, um, that nobody gets forgotten, left behind.
Hmm.
Um, as I said, traditionally disinvested area. We are in a food desert, no question. One of the reasons that I became a part of Market 166 is because I am really sick and tired of, you know, having to drive out of my city to go get fresh foods and the foods that I like.
Hmm.
I mean, I'm a member of another co-op, you know, but but I got to drive, I had to get in my car and drive there 20 minutes to get to it. Um, and so the area there, as Abby mentioned, in East Point, there are some supermarkets or food establishments, but they are not that they're no place that I want to eat, which is why I drive out of town. Let me put it that way. And the sad part about it is that there are people who don't have a choice. You
Yeah,
know, this is
exactly.
if they don't have, private transportation or, they work, between traveling to and from work and working, they're gone 12 to 14 hours a day. Nobody wants to come home and drive 20 minutes to get to quote unquote
Absolutely.
quality food. So and I am pretty let me make sure remind myself where I am. Pretty upset
Hmm.
about the fact that like a grocery store like Sprouts can have a warehouse in our community, but they won't bring a store here.
Oof.
And
Absolutely.
that was a question I asked directly before I asked join Market 166. I became an owner of Market 166, and actually that was a big impetus for me to just start thinking about community owned and led food resources. Yeah.
And I just want to highlight the connection Opal just made for all of us. There were some people in the comments saying, "Wow, it's amazing that for those of us who it was a bit of a surprise. Also can own that like it kind of shouldn't have been. Where we see these warehouses for these major distributors and these stores and stuff is absolutely not where they put stores, and
Exactly.
we see that again and again and again. So I think it's a powerful point. Thank you, Opal. And some people here were like, "Yeah, of course, I've experienced that," and some of us were like, "Oh." And that tells us a little bit about, what our backgrounds have been. I did want to ask and bring up one thing I think that is very clear and distinctive in with Market 166 is the population that you said is 80%, around 80% Black. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's 83% Black.
Mhm.
That is changing quickly.
Ooh,
We were at one point 91% Black. Since I've lived in East Point for 13 years. And, just before the last census, we were 91% Black. Now we're 83, and I see that decreasing quickly.
okay.
So this entire area, the Tri-Cities area, is about the same makeup.
Okay. And this brings us to a question that we discussed beforehand, and which is I asked you, would you use your co-op comfortable with the term to use the term that you are a black-led food co-op? And for those who maybe don't usually listen in on these things, it's a term that evolved out of Black-led Day at Up and Coming in the startup food co-op movement more than I think 6, 7 years ago. And there's this question, and we find sometimes that some co-ops like, what do we mean by that term? And so I asked you, do you guys identify with this term and what does it mean to you? And wonder if you guys would be willing to share a little bit of your answer about that.
Oh yeah, definitely. For me, I have no qualms at all calling us black led, but I want to give Abby an opportunity to share her thoughts and feelings about that.
Sure. I mean, I was hoping to be able to piggyback off of you because we talked about it a little bit, Opal. So I can start, but if it's okay, I actually would love to turn it back to you because I know you've given some thought to this based on your conversation with JQ. I've got a couple thoughts, but I think they'd be better as like additive.
Sure. Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, we're in a majority black city. Our board is more than two-thirds black. Our executive committee is 50% black. A lot of the people that we are looking to collaborate with and partner with are black. And so the one area that I hope that we'll lean into in the new year is that we have a growing Latino community and
Mm,
want to be able um, to invite them in and let everyone know that we are here for the entire community, but we are Black led.
hmm
These are the folks that have been here the longest, with the folks that have been divested in or divested out of.
hmm
We're the folks that have been working for, decades to bring change to the area, positive change to the area. We're the folks that are here that are inviting everybody in to come in and, be a part of our community without, trying to change our culture
hmm
here. I mean, a lot of people are moving here, and if you're moving here, you've had an experience with us, so you know what we're about for the most
hmm
part. So, we're saying, come join us.
hmm
Let's work together,
hmm
but let's not try to impose stuff
Yeah.
that you're accustomed to or onto this community. So it's I'm always about having conversation.
hmm
Let's talk about why. Let's talk about how, and let's talk about the reality, the truth. Let's be truth tellers about why this is important.
Absolutely. Abby, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, sure. And thanks, Opal, for letting me pass it back to you. I knew you could give sort of a broader, you know, response to kick us off, but and then I wanted to be able to add to it. So um yeah, echo everything Opal says. I am obviously not black. Well, maybe that's not obvious, but just to like say it explicitly, and I think something I
Hmm
appreciate about Market 166 and the conversations that we get to have is to be explicit about that and not just like the physical representation of who's in the rooms, but then what does it mean to be black led? What do you prioritize as a result of that? And whoever is there, whatever their demographics or background may be, whoever is there to be involved, um, what do we do to like live out the value and the importance of being in a predominantly black community and being a black led cooperative. And like I think we talk constantly about the inherent racial dynamics that have created the food system that we live in, right? Whereas Opal said, we have a Sprouts distribution warehouse, but no Sprouts within 30 minutes. You drive 20 minutes to other parts of town and you have a Publix right across from a Kroger. Meanwhile, neither of those stores will come to our community. That is not just about money, it is about race. And we talk about that a lot. And I think that fact is very prevalent in the way that we understand our importance as a cooperative and as part of this community. Um, I think just one like specific example, again, I'm sure we'll talk more about it, but the committee that I help to lead operates a mini market inside of another business in our community. And we, based on everything that Opal and I have just said, based on ongoing feedback from the community and based on the values of being a Black-led cooperative, we, as much as possible, prioritize buying from Black-owned businesses, for
Yeah.
example. So when I said, like, what do you prioritize as a result of being Black-led in a predominantly Black community and having that be important, I think that is an example of something that's really important to us in our community.
Excellent. Thank you guys for taking some time with that. We're going to not spend too much time here because I want you guys to learn a lot about their values and how they're delivering them now. And so and think that's, I mean, that's what we're here to celebrate. But I do want to mention that of course they're pre-open. So I asked them for this standard stats I've been asking for all the co-ops. Like, what's your store size? What's your product mix? What percent is going to be local food? What are your annual sales? And of course, those things aren't decided yet. And Opal shared actually is really actively what you guys are working on right now. And I wondered if you just want to speak to this for a minute, like where you're at in the process of thinking through these questions.
Yeah, well, we were fortunate enough to win a grant uh, uh, earlier, actually. I thought it was earlier this year. It felt like it was so long ago, but it was actually toward the end of the summer. We've had a short time period for us to do a lot of things, and one of the things that we focus on is infrastructure building. That because what we recognize is that because we are a 100% volunteer board with a very small board, we've been spending a lot of time trying to figure out systems and do administrative stuff and so on and so forth, and not as much time as we want to in front of the community. We're here because are our goal is to invite the community into this process and work to collaborate with the community to create this wonderful vision that we have of this community-led grocery store.
Mhm.
And so we spent a lot of time on infrastructure building. We're doing our website. We got another market study done. The one we had before, I think, was before COVID.
Mhm.
So many changes since then. We got another one. We actually just a couple of days ago got the draft report and a presentation. And we're looking at things like CRMs.
Mhm.
We have one of our board members that's an IT guru, working, with Salesforce to be exact, to
Mhm.
build us a CRM so that we can automate things a little bit more. And so less time, trying to, track all the different spreadsheets that we have, and be able to run reports so that we can identify things a lot faster. And then we have, the wonderful Heather and Joel from Seven Roots that are helping us, with a visioning process. So we've been doing a lot of those kinds of things to really kind of, establish a stronger foundation is that on which because it's really hard to it's really hard to get folks to buy into a concept.
Yes.
And that's basically what we are,
Yeah.
when developing a co-op is asking people to put their hard-earned money into a concept.
Yeah.
And telling them that, you put it in today, but it could be a few years down the road before
Yeah.
we actually see something. So being able to go through these processes, which is these exercises, of really trying to figure out who we are, what we are, how we are, why we are, and so that when we message that we are hitting, um, that sounds really violent, but we're reaching out to folks in where they are,
Yeah.
essentially, right where they are. Uh, you talk to each board member, everybody has an idea about what this all means. And
Hmm.
the struggle is coming together so that we can have some unified messages. And of course, if you're trying to meet people where they are, then the message is going to be different from group to group to group, from community to community.
Absolutely.
Learning more about ourselves as an organization, what we envision, where we want to go, um, I think is an important part of the organizing that we're doing right now, so
Hmm.
that when we are able to talk with our community and and share the relevance of what we're doing,
Yes.
that it's a clearer message, so.
Which, I mean, has really been coming through for what it's worth. I mean, I think you guys, it seems like you're getting a lot more interaction than I remember, definitely pre 2020, from the community. And there's this cohesion of who you are and what you're trying to accomplish that is really coming through. And that starts with, I think you guys put a lot of work in building alignment around your values and really what I think it's startups that we have a hard time. We get started and we're like, of course, we all want the same thing. And, we want this thing. But it becomes a really kind of a spaghetti bowl. We don't actually clearly communicate there's lots of things we want, but what are we here to stand on and make sure happens and always center. And, you guys put a lot of work into this. And I love how clean and concise these are. So for those who may have vision impairment issues, I'll read these out loud real quick. They have four main values. And again, co-ops have lots of values, but what are we going to put in the center and say, this though, this always has to come first. And for Market 166, expanding access to nutritious, quality, affordable, and diverse foods is their first. Their second is investing in our community by partnering with local and underrepresented farmers and producers, very clear and direct about what they are here to do. Cultivating a hub for community gathering, connection, and innovations, number three. And four, engaging and empowering our neighbors about nutrition, healthy living, and community well-being. One, I'm going to say, now that I've seen these and read these, I'm going to be sending them to a lot of your peers. You guys nailed this. They are clean, they are concise, and they don't combine three different ideas into one bullet point. Thank you. The vision process leader in me is so happy. How did you guys come to these and say like this is what we're going to center our efforts on?
I'm going to have Abby talk about that because she was actually on the committee, or on the team of owners
Oh.
who, we had something before, but
Hmm.
it was very sort of blurry, trying to say a lot, not really saying
Hmm.
anything directly. And so, we decided that we needed to do a revisit of our vision, mission, values. And Abby and some other owners got together and really crafted this out.
Well, Abby, I'd love to hear about that because you did what we're looking for. What you're always looking for values as a co-op is what do we promising we're going to deliver to our community? What do we want to do for ourselves as a community? And it doesn't include a 10,000 square foot grocery store with a deli, but it does include, but we want that access to the foods and we want this kind of community gathering and there's that we're focused on what we want to deliver, not the exact shape it takes yet in our values. And so phenomenal job. And what kind of process did you guys run to get to these?
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, to echo what Opal said too, I think the initial draft of our vision, mission, values that the like 2017, 2018 cohort of early organizers came up with was a good starting point.
Absolutely.
And at the time that I joined the board in 2021, and for like what started to happen is I think the initial draft again was helpful to get us started, but it was both
Absolutely.
like so broad and so specific that it was unhelpful. And so
I think
we found
everybody's first version of those are as a startup.
exactly there's big dreams and there's specific things that you think you're going to do, and then in reality, none of it is quite hitting the mark on helping you actually drive forward in a unified way. So um, I will say too, I'll like describe what I recall from the process, and I'm happy to share what I can afterwards, maybe with you, JQ, in case people want to look at it,
Hmm.
um, in terms of like the specific process that we went through.
Yeah.
but yeah, I had been on the board for probably a year or two when we did a revamp of our vision, mission, values. And it was as a result of just, yeah, kind of lots of questions, both from the community and the board, which were often answered very differently because the initial
Mm.
draft that we had was not clear. Um,
Yeah.
and oh man, this was like, I don't know, 2+ years ago. So you're making me think way back. But
Oh, that's okay. Just, like it sounds like
yeah,
it was a collaborative process. So you guys took
yeah.
that original lens and you guys developed a process. And did it involve just the board or were you able to get did you involve other voices or how did that work?
Yeah, so there are a couple pieces to it. There was sort of like a data piece to it. Fortunately, one of our owners is like, I'm not going to say the right word, a data person, statistician. I don't know exactly what. They do a lot of research, both qualitative and quantitative. And so a great asset to have. And they offered to look through sort of a history of a number of different surveys that Market 166 had done of our community and our owners over the years, as well as just like broader public health and other survey data around some of the
Hmm.
needs in our community. So we had this sort of like data piece that helped give us a big picture sense of what the community broadly was saying or needing. Um, and then, and I will mention my like full-time paying job is as a community organizer. So some of this like now facilitating a session around values and vision is something that I do for a living. And
Hmm.
so I worked with the board to develop the specifics for us, but we had a sort of, yeah, we had a session where we invited the owners to come in and have a conversation around this. I will spare the
Excellent.
details, but again, I'm happy to share like the agenda
Well, I think you just
specifically.
offered, so people are going to want to see it. So I
Yeah,
will
yeah,
reach
yeah.
out to you and send out what you are comfortable sharing to everyone who
Sure.
registered for this. But I think I'm hearing that, so you guys utilized data, you guys utilized community input, you ran a process with someone who knew how to run a process, and I loved hearing is you utilized the brilliance that already existed within your ownership base to pull that
Mhm.
together. So I want to just give a big thumbs up here. And I want to get to celebrating how you guys have been delivering it. So I'm going to just touch on this lightly. There is a whole story. We could do a whole hour on the road bumps. All startups hit road bumps, and some of them don't hit them till later and are really shocked. And some of them hit them really early and somewhere in between. And, Marco 166 hit one completely beyond their control, which was 2020. And the world changed and how people organize changed. And so, you're just starting to gain momentum. You hit this now everyone doesn't priorities are going upside down and whether we even gather in public and just a lot. So that of course was a major road bump. And the other was something Abby alluded to earlier, a market study that just wasn't showing sustainable sales for their first concept of how big the store would be and what it might do. Because again, as Abby was mentioning, that specificity of what we want and then the vagueness of what we're trying to do, a preliminary market study had been run, which is a very responsible thing to do, and it wasn't showing what they'd hoped it would show, and it was making everyone kind of, what does this mean? And so this moment was hit. And what is interesting to me about this moment, because lots of startups have hit it, is how you guys reacted. And there's always the first we hit the rope and go, oh, whoa, we revision, let's get clear what we're trying to accomplish. And then you guys decided, and I'd love to talk about why and then how. We know it's a risk to put a bunch of energy into, delivering our vision now, even though we still really want a grocery store and that takes so much effort to organize. But there's a really darn good reason to do it, and we're going to do it. And so you really pivoted to finding a way to serve your community now as you continue to work to build together toward a grocery store. Can you guys share a little bit about why that decision was made?
You want me to start this one, Opal?
Sure.
um, um, yeah, so I guess the kind of the how first and then a bit of the why. Actually, one of the owners of our cooperative, who also is a business owner in our community, approached us. She was opening up a new business in East Point where she lived and had called East Point home for a while, but her business had been based in a different part of Atlanta. So she was moving it into East Point. It was a big space. She only needed part of it. And so she
Mm.
started reaching out to other values aligned businesses who shared, I think, her. Anyway, started reaching out to other values aligned businesses to see how they wanted to help her fill in the space and create this really just kind of diverse community food space. I will mention and thanks JQ for sharing some of our values. In the past slide, our motto is connecting community through good food. That is something that also came out of the visioning process. And interestingly, so this gets in a little bit more to like the why we decided to say yes. That business owner, as soon as she approached us, she talked all about wanting her space to be a place where the community could come together around food and like food being a convener of community. And so again, while the specifics were not worked out and we are still working them out as we continue to be in the space, our values and the mission, that she holds and that we hold are aligned. And so that is largely why we said yes, because she was a co-op owner, a trusted local business owner who shared the values that we did of having good food be a way to bring people together.
And I love, so if people don't really know, because we didn't say at first, that Market 166 has taken the step of opening a mini store within another locally owned business. And this is if you're able to see the slides, there's a poster there for their grand opening of that mini market location and beautiful branding and pictures of some of the vendors they're working with above, and then a little bit of the actual shopping experience space there. And so they were approached about it, but it aligned with their values and they decided to go for it. And Opal, you shared some reasons about part of why the go for it, the testing and the building trust. And I wondered if you wanted to talk a little bit about that.
Sure, yeah. The decision to do it took a lot of conversation, a lot of meetings, a lot of, asking why, and what that could look like, et cetera. And I think ultimately we settled on, yeah, we need to just do it. It serves a number of purposes, including, our first one, which is providing access to quality foods for community. And this where this space is located is literally one of the most underserved communities in
Mm,
East Point.
mm,
And so that made sense to me for
hmm
sure. That here's an opportunity to sort of um, introduce uh, um, Mark 166 to a community that frankly, probably for the most part, don't have the time
mm,
or
hmm
the energy, to talk about so much about, why this co-op is, what is a co-op and why is it important? So we were able to settle right in that community and as a way to sort of build more community,
hmm
be more engaged with folks, and to introduce the concept of the model to a broader community. And so that was one thing, that visibility was, I think, important. Um, it's also an opportunity for us to test some things, test out some operational concerns, issues. How would we, you know, um, something like ringing up a sale.
hmm
What, how, possible in
hmm
this space. Um, you know, uh, Product mix.
Yep.
We lean into local
Yeah.
and supporting small businesses. Well, what does that look like? What would it look like in the full service grocery store? And of course, it's going to be different. I mean, more volume versus a smaller, more contained space.
hmm
And it literally was a space that we could, for several years, we partnered with an organization, well, the one that Abby used to work for,
Mhm.
Common Market, and they've been wonderful and provided a a space for us to hold meetings and community, board meetings and community meetings and so on and so forth. But it's not our space.
Mhm.
And this space gave us an opportunity, even though in some respects it's not 100% our space either, but we had some real ownership
Yeah.
uh, to the space. And so being able to provide that other part about creating a space for folks to gather,
Hmm.
for the community to gather and be able to say, come, come hang with us, talk with us, see what we're about, give us your feedback. Tell us what we should be doing or what we could do better or
Hmm.
um, you know, uh just share your thoughts and feelings about it. So it was an opportunity to do multiple things. And so because our owner is wonderful and very supportive, we're able to do this
Yeah.
like way ahead of when we're ready without a whole lot of, there are always consequences to running a business,
Of
but
course.
without a whole lot of, really, really hard consequences. And
Totally.
if it turns out at some point, it turns out that, it would be better for us to, withdraw,
Hmm.
there's no harm, no foul.
Yeah,
We'd
which
hate
is
to
so
do
great.
that, but no
Yeah,
harm, no
absolutely.
foul.
But I think what, as you were sharing, like you guys have shared that first off, it got you into the neighborhood. It got you the experience of working with local vendors and the co-ops that have those pre-open local vendor relationships. It's a big leg up when opening a store and building up those vendor relationships and bringing them into a store, which is a very different thing. You guys are getting to see how people respond to the local food, how they feel about it, the co-op offering, predominantly local food. And so there's just so much going on. And then you pointed to Opal when we talked was something that I'm going to give a nod to Dr. Angela Sales, so those who know her, a phenomenal human being who's done a lot of work with our peer groups and others, and is very much in the food justice and Black cooperative space, coined a concept. There are five resources in the food co-op development framework, and there had always been four, but she added the fifth,
Trust.
and that was trust.
Yes.
And you were talking about like part of this is just, communities that have been purposely disinvested in, that trust building is key, and that showing people what we're doing, and that you put a face to it and then you interact with the community. And I remember hearing that very strongly from you. And I wonder, have you guys experienced that now that you're living into this? I mean, clearly the vendors are trusting you. You have some beautiful vendor promotions and lots of people participating. What are you experiencing in the trust building with the community now that you are physically located in?
Hmm. I don't know. I think in general, as we are organizing, I think for me, an important part of what we um, that would benefit us doing more of is that education piece. We need to be P5ing it more. Moving at the speed of community is all about trust. So, and you can't rush it. You can't have it before the community's ready to, give it to you. So it's a really slow process. And I mean, I'm leaning into that, accepting that, even though I'm technically an impatient person, but I understand that this is that this is a part of it. I think that we're growing. I mean, our ownership base is growing. It's growing slowly, and that might have a lot to do with a lot of things that we have no control over.
Hmm.
But our membership base is growing, and I think as long as we can continue to see that happening, that we know that we're hitting, even if it's one person at a community meeting or one person that walked into the store, there something is moving. them.
Hmm.
And so, you know, we just need to be patient and to do what we promise,
Mm.
and be available to engage with community and be honest and transparent with them about what we're doing, why we're doing, how we're doing it, and ensure that, you know, we create the space for folks to feel that sense of ownership, but to feel that, you know, okay, this is for me. This
Hmm.
is my place. You know, those things take time. And
Yeah.
I I I I think that you know, certainly based on the like the committee that Abby is on right now, where the mini market is concerned. I mean, those folks, you know, they've been fantastic and have, you know, have really taken ownership of the mini market over the past year, and everything that's going right with it is because of these volunteers, these owner volunteers, and so you
I
know,
love that.
it's slow. I mean, it's slow, but I
Hmm.
think if we can continue to show that we really are about you know, community and listening, and you know, giving them space to voice, to
Yeah.
use their voice, you know, then we're on the right track.
Well, and that you guys have launched a committee, and any startup peers in the earlier phases or past those early phases remembers getting enough that you're like hitting the vision and the trust building right, that a committee literally spins up and like take and does the thing, like takes ownership, right? And so that you guys are seeing ownership in this movement forward to serve the community through this committee is a testament to the step-by-step process you guys are taking to build trust with your community. And it's something that some co-ops are, you know, really trying to find that moment. And you guys are starting to get that, where people are willing to give time and energy and take ownership of something about the co-op because it's meeting what they're hoping for, and they have trust that you're going to utilize their time to do something they believe in. So it's a beautiful thing to see. I do want to hear more about how this works, because I know people do, Abby, but I don't want to lose the opportunity to ask this question and have you both answer it first. So if we have a little time to end, we'll talk a little more how the committee's doing this. Um, but I would love to ask you both, as a startup, a lot of people are like, well, then we'll open the store and then and our co-op will start changing things and we'll start touching lives and things will start happening that are really meaningful. And it's just very clear from the work you guys were already doing that a co-op, once it exists and has a sense of what it is in the community, it's starting to take up space in the community. It's already touching lives and changing the community. And I wonder if there's something each of you might be comfortable sharing personally, a moment, a piece of what you guys are doing, something you saw happen with the co-op that touched you and said, yeah, like this co-op thing is is accomplishing things that really move me as an individual and already. And I wonder if either of you want to go first answering that.
Okay, well, I guess I'll start.
Okay.
Abby. All right, Abby, I'll let you pass on this one. Well, I mean, so I think we recently had our first annual fall market holiday festival. And it actually turned out that we were going to have a fall festival and a holiday gathering.
Hmm.
And the shutdown is, this is how, you know, things get impacted, and you don't even really uh, connect the dots until later. But you know, with the shutdown in DC, we decided to move up the holiday gathering to earlier, so to provide a space for folks
Mm,
to um, be able to come and decompress from all of that. You
yeah.
know, all of those demoralizing, you know, actions that were taking place in Washington, that is impacting people right next door. You know, and you know, the worry and the stress and the anger and the pain. We were like, you need to find a space for people where people can come and just sort of relax, have
Yeah,
fun.
absolutely.
So we had this festival, where we had, childcare, folks wanted to, go into the brewery next, right,
Mm,
if they could without having to worry about, what was going on with their kids. We had music, 80s and 90s music and Latino music and just we had demonstrations like a capoeira demonstration. We just activities and
mhm.
there were games in the back. There was face painting for adults and kids. There was all kinds of stuff that was going on. The market, were really great. I mean, they were there for folks as folks were coming in and asking questions and what is this all about? And some people
Mhm.
just signed up for it because they wanted to know what
Ah,
what this thing was about. And so we had an outreach coordinator and a volunteer coordinator doing some surveying and trying to gather information and stuff. And one of the things that leading up to that I don't know is this sort of light bulb moment
mhm.
in how do we address what people are going through right now, the worry of, not knowing food where their food was going to come from, or that the lack of funding, et cetera. And so I reached out to my neighborhood association
Mm,
that had a history. I mean, we have something here called the Lottie Maynard Fund, which we collect money. And at some point, we pay somebody's light bill, or
mhm.
get their lawns cut, or just do stuff, buy them some grocery, etc. And it was like, okay, well, we also support the local high school, which is literally down the street from my house.
Mhm.
And they have a center called Unido Center that's uh, packaged canned foods,
Mhm.
clothing, school supplies, et cetera, that's been collected. And our neighborhood association has been collecting for them for a while. And we're like, okay, well, how about a lot of these folks are folks whose families depend on SNAP and,
Mhm.
other services.
Mhm.
So let's collect some food.
Mhm.
Let's make this a part of the festival. Folks are coming to have fun.
Mhm.
They're coming to learn more about us, but let's take advantage of the fact that there are people here that are coming here, and
Absolutely.
let's do a food drive. And I really that you can do these things as co-ops, but you don't really understand the impact until you actually do them and
Mm,
and collaborate with others to get this done. And I mean, we collected four, boxes of stuff that we took to the school, to Unida Center, that's been helping, folks in our community and their families, the students and their families.
yeah.
So I mean, it makes me think about, you know, is this something that we need to be doing on an ongoing basis?
I wish
So
I want to capture that quote there. Like, you kind of know co-ops can do this thing and then you do it,
yeah,
and you just see. And I love how it highlights again that a co-op exists, with a store, without a store, if it's filling a space in the community where people know we can come together to relieve each other's stress, to gather resources to help others, to get things done together. And so Marcus 166 clearly, probably long before, but as of this fall, was truly doing that, pulling together organizations and individuals to make the community what they want it to be. And that's absolutely beautiful. And I want to take a minute here, Abby, in case you'd like to throw in something about how you see the co-op already delivering its values and how that has touched you.
Yeah, sure. There's so much I could say here, but I think as I've been reflecting in the last few minutes and listening to Opal too, I think overall, I just love getting to see how there are already relationships that don't feel transactional, but like truly feel connective and community driven. For example, the mini market committee has done some canvassing in the neighborhood right around the store to just like say hi, make sure people know we're there. And I've loved when I've just been in that space and I see someone whose door we knocked come, and I'm like, oh hey, I remember you. I'm so glad you're here. Have you been here? Like, so just that level of connection.
Hmm.
We I also just want to mention too, I think in general, I think something that we try to do with a lot of our events um, is think about different communities that we are in touch with and how we can bring them together. And there's a lot of examples of this. We've done some voter education events where we help people understand what's on their ballot, especially in these like municipal or early elections. We held a bike tour this fall where we were really intentional about the different local farms and gardens that we stopped at. There's like a great local bike group who really helped organize the ride. So we brought in like just different communities that all share some sense of value and um, could meet each other, who are sort of active but in different ways, all within the Tri-Cities area. And like speaking of tangible impacts, our last stop on the bike tour was at a local farm that has a Saturday market. It was on a Saturday. I think probably more than half the people on the ride had no idea that that farm
Oh,
had a local
wow.
market on a Saturday. And so now, tangible impacts, right, is now people know that there's a great weekend farmers market, that local business has more supporters. So it's neat to see both kind of in spirit, but also in like tangible results, some of the impacts and connections we've been able to make. And I'm very grateful for it.
Absolutely. And those of you who were able to make it, and if you weren't, go watch the video to our session with South Philly Food Co-op, which is a thriving startup that has been open now since 2020, and actually is graduating from the startup phase and into established food co-op. Listening to Abby and Opal is like listening to them talk about what, yes, absolutely, we have these challenges and we have to run a good business, and they can talk to you about that, but also part of their thriving, I think very central to their thriving, is that these connections and networks and interconnection around value that they've made a living, breathing part of the center of their co-op. And Market 166 illustrates so well how that can be done before we're open and how it is absolutely critical to do before we're open. So thank you both Abby and Opal for coming and sharing your guys' story. I know you're crazy busy people if you're co-op organizers, and we really appreciate you guys being here to share your story. Real quickly, I just want to let people know that this series was possible because of Full Circle Co-ops, which are established food co-ops or open food co-ops across the US who fund FCI, who donate to FCI to make sure that we're here to deliver the promise that there will be a food co-op movement that welcomes new co-ops for now and into the future. And so we're grateful to them. And so these co-ops here, these logos you see, this is actually who made, if you enjoyed this series, they made it possible. So thank you to them. And in case this is the first time you're interacting with FCI, we are Food Co-op Initiative, and we specifically are a nonprofit that exists to help people explore and then develop startup food co-ops in their own communities. And if you want to learn more, you can reach out to us directly or go to our website at fci.coop. Thanks everyone for being here.
Thank you all.